So hi Artie, it's great to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me here.
Now, you're an interior designer and you also train other interior designers on how to start their business successfully. So I'm really looking forward to picking your brain about all things beautiful in the home and creating an inspiring environment for our businesses, because I know most of us work from our own home spaces. But before we move into that, I'd love it if you could tell us a little bit about how you got started as an interior designer yourself.
So I actually decided from the age of 15 that I wanted to be an interior designer. And I think it might have been a lot of watching all those programs on TV and, having that ideology that this is what I want to do when I grow up. And so what I did was I literally went into research mode, and all I could think about was how was I going to make sure that I could become an interior designer. I looked at degrees and art school and everything, and tailored all my education to ensuring that I would get to my destination quicker than anyone else. Really, it's all I ever wanted to do.
So when you went and you got your education in interior design?
Yes. So when it came to A levels, I skipped A levels. I did. I built my portfolio up to get into art school, and then I did my degree in interior design, and I did my master's in interactive digital media with a spatial bias. So I tailored everything to getting that first job.
How wonderful to have that passion and drive from such an early age to be continuing with that now. It's obviously a lifelong passion. So when you got you finished your studies, did you work for yourself immediately or did you work for a firm?
No, so I did work in a few different agencies, some global brands, some smaller boutique agencies, and working in all the different agencies that I have, it really helped me to understand how different businesses work from a daily interior design business perspective. How did they meet clients? What did we need to present? So as well as doing the design work, in some of the agencies, that because they were so small, I was able to take part in other areas of the running of the business. So I worked in the industry for others for about 12 years, I think.
Okay. Yeah, it's great to have that small business experience. My first, actually, my very first job was in contract furnishing, and I did show homes. So a little bit of interiors there. I mean, that wasn't necessarily my passion or background, but I was very grateful because I got to do David Gianello's home in
Wow.
London. I was like, yeah, it was so nice to actually meet him, and he was so beautiful. um, but yeah, to see the business side of it, and as you say, in a small business you never just do your job, you get pulled it. So I got pulled in to do a bit of sales and a bit of project management, and there was both, because I was the only person with a degree in design. My degree was in design management. Then I often got pulled into all the fancy meetings with these high flying clients because I had the qualification.
Yes.
So even if I wasn't working on the project itself, but that was quite nerve-wracking. But then you did learn that
You just
everyone
learn
says,
on the job, because you get thrown in,
yeah, exactly.
are kind of just like, oh, okay, I'll learn how to do this.
Yeah, and you learn that even these huge clients with millions of dollars to spend on their interiors, they're still just people. So
Yes.
that was quite a nice realization as well. Like, oh, right, okay. So at what point did you decide to go out on your own and start your own business?
So I was referred, because everyone would always come to me for advice anyway, even while I was working I worked in London for a long period of time, and I would still have friends and family come and ask me for advice. And I'd always wanted to have my own business. It was, along with that whole I want to be an interior designer, it was always I'd love to be my own boss. But when you start working, that reality changes slightly because there's so much to learn.
Mm.
And actually, when I had all these friends and family asking me for advice, I thought I did, it came back and I thought I could do this for myself. But it actually wasn't until someone landed a job in my lap and threw it at me and said, here, I want you to do this, and I'll pay you for it. And I just thought, okay. I can do this. This is something that can work. And so I set up my website, I set up my social media, and I thought, yes, I'm a business. I'm going to go for it. And I worked on this project, and it was a really, really lovely project. And it was, because it was for friends, it didn't feel like it was work. So it was quite nice. So it was a good start in the business for me. But of course, after I did that project, and I, got some more photos for my website and social media, but then what? Because it wasn't as easy as having a website and having the social media set up and saying, okay, I'm open, come and find me, because clients aren't just going to come and find you. You have to do something, you have to take action for them to find you. And I think that was the biggest thing, that was the biggest realization. What do I do now?
Yeah.
So yeah, and then it was just trying to figure out what my next steps were, because I then realized that I needed more than a website. I needed more than my Instagram account. While Instagram's great for interior designers, it's great for any creative careers. But what do I do next? So it's only after I started to figure out what to do next that I got more projects and more business coming in.
Yeah. And I think you've fallen into the trap that a lot of businesses do when they start out. It's that kind of field of dreams scenario, build it and they will come. Like, no, you build your website and nobody comes. And that's the big shock for a lot of people. And then, well, you have to push people to your website.
Yes.
And then you have to take them off the website as well. So you have to have a way for them to get in and a way for them to get off the website and into your portfolio. So what was it that you did do that started to get that stream of clients coming to you?
The thing that I was the most scared of, which was getting visible. So I had to start getting not only my work out there, but I had to start getting myself out there, and I had to put my face to it. And I think that was the hardest part for me, because it's easy to post a picture on Instagram with a lovely caption and ask people to engage with you, but the hardest thing is to put your the commitment you put to it is your face, is who you are. And so I had to start getting visible. I had to start going doing lives on Facebook, and really building that know, like and trust factor, because people didn't know me. People saw the website, they saw the logos, they read all my copy, but actually, who was I, and why was I going to resonate with that client? And so it was making sure, so I had to define who it was that I was serving, so who my ideal client was, and make sure that everything I did was tailored to that person. And yeah, being visible is hard. And back then I wasn't very confident, and I'd worry that people were going to laugh at me, and people would say, oh God, what's she doing, and be embarrassed. And so that was all the things that held me back. And it's only once I just gave myself a talking to, worked on my mindset, and really started to get out there and talk to people through the social media, that actually, I got more clients coming in, because they saw me and they saw my personality. So
yeah, exactly. And I think with an industry like interior design, then websites like Pinterest and Instagram are great, because they are very visual. You can share these beautiful pictures of your interiors, but that's not what's going to differentiate you unless you have like a very specific style that makes you stand out against everybody else. If you are creating beautiful homes that people want to live in, then they're all going to be beautiful, right? So getting yourself, your personality, your philosophy out there is the part that's going to hook people in. And you mentioned there that at the beginning you were fearful of that, of getting visible. You were worried about people judging you or saying negative things. And I know I always wonder that I'm doing things wrong, because I've been out there visible now for a number of years. And so far I have had no awful comments at all. Have you had any bad comments that people really judged you for that?
No, I mean, not that I know of. They might have, or you might have had friends or family or other people say, "Oh, what's she doing?" But no one's ever said it to me. And actually, even if they do, I knew from the age of 15 I was going to be an interior designer. I am, and I'm doing what I wanted to do back then. So for me, I just think, well, it doesn't matter what anyone says anymore, because I'm doing what I want to do and I'm happy doing it. So I'm not going to now let that influence my future, because only I control it. So
yeah, I think that's just gold what you just shared there, because there's that great quote, isn't it, that what other people think of you is none of your business. I think that's from Jim Rohn or someone. And when I heard that, I was like, yeah, it's so true. A lot of the time, and if you say it out loud, it doesn't make any sense. I'm not going to follow my dream because the neighbor's friend's husband's dog might say something horrible.
yeah.
And even if they do think, oh, what's she like getting out there? I mean, that doesn't change anything for you. And hey, as you
No.
said, you're following your dreams, making your passions happen. You are creating these beautiful interiors for people. You're really helping. So why do you care what anyone else thinks? It really just doesn't matter at all. And a lot of the time, if they do have anything negative to say, it's more a reflection of them, reflecting on themselves, thinking, I could never do that, or that more than them ever thinking anything bad of you. And so, as you say, and most of the time it just doesn't happen. So anyone out there who is thinking, I can't go visible in case someone thinks something of me, stop it and just get on with it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what you have to remember, and I did have a case of this at the beginning where my feed needed to be perfect. I needed to make sure that everything was beautifully curated. And while you, of course, need to do that in the client work that you do, that's different. But when you're putting yourself out there, it's about putting yourself out there. It's not about creating something perfect, because if you wait to create something perfect, you might never put it out there. And that's the biggest, you're letting yourself down. That's the biggest way of letting yourself down, because by getting yourself out there, whether it's finished or not, it means that you started that process and you've started on that road. No client wants to see just a perfectly curated room. They want to see the personality behind it. They want to see the behind the scenes. They want to see the struggles you went through, because that helps them to understand who you are as an interior designer, a creative business owner, whatever it is that you are. They want to see that behind the scenes. They want to buy into you. And if you don't show them that, then all they see is that beautiful image, and they don't understand everything that went behind it. So I definitely think that it's a good thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And perfect people don't exist. So if you're putting yourself out there as perfect, other people can't relate to that.
No.
When you show who you are, how you're juggling your family, or how you're an interior designer, but admittedly there are parts of your home that perhaps aren't so perfect as well. People can relate to that. That gives you personality, that makes them want to get to know you. So I think if you are too perfect, it can create a wall between you and the potential customer, and you don't want that. So yeah, feel free to show all of your faults. And we had a great conversation with Lucy Griffiths, with Jamie Palmer, several other people who are specialists in social media on the show, and they've all said the same. What people want is to see you, but they don't want you to be perfect. And in fact, it's more a relief when you're not perfect. And particularly in interior design as well, you have to, I guess, be careful that people don't have that fear that you're going to go into their home and judge them in any way. So having that person, like being just a regular human being, is going to be important. Yeah, exactly. So talking about interiors, I'd love to pick your brains. I suspect a large number of the people listening to this show are like ourselves, running a business from home. How can you create the right environment within your home that's going to help inspire you and help you focus and do your best work, but also be a living space? Are there any tips that you have around that?
So what I would say is, if you've got a dedicated office, then that's fine. But if you don't have a dedicated office, that's okay. I am sometimes working on my kitchen table because space is so limited that if my son is doing his work, my husband is working from home, and I've got to work or set up the laptop. Sometimes it is on the kitchen counter because I've got nowhere else to do it. And what I would say is make sure you have a tray or a box that has all of your work things in it, especially if you're mobile. If you've got an office, we'll come on to that in a second, but if you're mobile, then have everything in one place, and that might be all your notebooks and your mouse and all your computer leads, and keep it all in that box. And after the end of each day, make sure you put everything that you need back in that box, because it means that you're not running around everywhere looking for that notebook or that post-it note or that pen. You've got it all in one place. All you've got to do is pick it up and move it to where you were working that day. It just makes life so much easier. And I would say, if you've got the wall space or shelf space, put some quotes up. Put some quotes up that inspire you. And that might be that, if you're mobile, it might be something that's in your notebook or on your laptop background, the background, because it helps you to stay focused. Make sure you have good lighting. So I think it's really important. I have a portable lamp that I carry around with me if I need to move, so that I can set it up, and it means that I'm not working in the dark. The light is consistently the same wherever I am, and that always helps me too. Something that's not interiors related is, because I'm really, really busy. I've got 2 children, my husband works, I do various things. I always time block my time, because every day I know what I'm doing, and it causes less stress. So if I know that my husband's got a meeting for 3 hours in the morning, I know that I'm not going to have that space. So I know that actually I've got to plan to work somewhere else or be in another room or whatever it is. So it means that I can manage what I'm doing based on the diary of the day. So we talk about it every day, like we know what each other is doing, we know what our son's doing, and I just found that that's been a really, really important factor, especially while we've all been working at home, that whenever we've been restricted in that sense. In terms of your if you've got an office space, then make sure you get yourself a desk and a good chair. It's really, really important for posture, but it also helps with productivity. Make sure that desk is well lit, and make sure that you have nice things around you in that space. So that might just be trinkets for your desk, or it might be a photo of your family members, but it helps you to have that positivity in that space, and that always helps with how you're working. So and try and clear everything away at the end of the day. Don't leave the mess out, because or leave papers everywhere.
I'm just looking at the pile of papers at the side of me that you can't see on screen, but you can see my messy shelves, and you did a little bit of work.
But it just helps, because it helps you to come to a desk that's clear and tidy, and you're not carrying on from the night before. You're actually starting fresh, and I think it's quite important, because otherwise what happens in the morning, you'll come along and you'll think, oh, I've got to tidy that pile of paperwork. Before you know it, you've spent an hour putting things away. But if you'd done that at the end of yesterday, it would have allowed you to just come in and start in the morning, as opposed to clearing up from the mess from the night before. It might not be mess, but as in paperwork or anything else. So I think that's really important as well.
Amazing tips, thank you so much. And yeah, lots of things I hadn't thought about. Having a good chair that helps you with your focus and productivity. You don't necessarily think of these small things, and just having little meaningful things around you that help you to feel good about what you're doing. Really
hopefully inspired.
Yeah, exactly. I've probably got a few too many things. I feel inspire me. I need to cut that down a bit. So when people are starting out as an interior design business, we touched on a little bit about how the website and social media presence is important, but it's you need to think bigger around how you're going to attract people into all of the great content and information you've created.
Yeah.
If other people out there are listening to the show and they're thinking of getting their interior design business started, or perhaps they've started it and it's not quite coming together, what advice would you give them to help them move forward and start taking things to the next level?
So what I would say, the first thing I would say to you is think about the types of projects that you want to work on. Think about the types of clients you want to work with. That's those two are the biggest things, because as an interior designer, I've worked across different sectors of the interior design industry. I've designed for brands, I've designed for residential clients, I've worked on experiential campaigns, hospitality, restaurant, bars, everything. But as an interior designer, I need to focus on one niche. I need to make sure that I take whatever niche it is and work out precisely who I'm serving in terms of my client, because it will then help you to make sure you tailor your content, make sure you tailor your marketing based directly on that specific client, so that the content you are putting out there resonates with that client. So once you've figured out the types of projects you want to work on, if it's residential homes or it's bars and restaurants, they're two different sectors, and the way you talk to that customer or that potential client is different. So you figure out the types of projects and the types of clients you want to work on first, and don't cast the net too wide, because if you do, it's fearful that you'll miss out on the clients that you really want to work with. So I think that's the biggest learning that I had, and I only learned that a year and a half to 2 years into my business, and I wish I'd known it at the beginning, because it would have allowed me to really focus on who I wanted to work with.
Yeah, and I think you're right. A lot of people are a bit fearful of niching because they think, oh well, I'll discount other clients and I might lose out on business. But you're going to get a lot more business if you are speaking specifically to people who can relate to what you're doing. And you will still pick up other people anyway. I niche in on helping female entrepreneurs to build their business. And yet I work with men because they like my message, they can relate to my processes and approach. So it does, even though everything about my brand, it says women all over it, it's female colors, everything, I still get men coming to me asking for help. So
yeah,
you will still pick up other people outside your niche, but it gives you a lot more focus, and it's so much easier for you as well when you know who you're talking to and who you're trying to attract, because then you can create everything for them. It's a big shortcut as well to decision making, to everything. So amazing advice. And I think it can evolve over time as well. So I know with my first business, when I started my communication consultancy, I thought, I'm going to work with large corporates and certain elements, and then I realized I hate working with this kind of person. And then you evolve over time, and it's never fixed. You don't want to set your niche and think, right, that's it forevermore. You can evolve and grow with your own experiences too.
Yes, definitely. I think it's a learning. So once you have niched and started to put your content out there and be visible to that specific client, like you said, you might go in and then realize you don't actually like it, and it's an evolving process. But until you do it, until you've actually made that conscious decision, you're never going to know.
Yeah, exactly. You just have to start somewhere. Just get out there and start.
Yes, definitely.
You've mentioned a couple of times about how in the early days you found it difficult to put yourself out there. What was it that was the turning point for you? Was there a specific moment or something you did, or a change in your thinking that enabled you to just get out there and become more visible?
So I worked on my mindset a lot, because I know that I had things that were in my head that were holding me back, and I knew that I had to work on them in order to progress and in order to achieve what I wanted to achieve. I've always been an ambitious person, and I've always known I wanted to be an interior designer, and so something flipped in me that realized, if I wanted to do this and I wanted to do it for myself, which I did, then I had to overcome that hurdle. and I had to do it no matter what. So it was then, thinking about what help do I need to make sure that I get over this. And so, working on my mindset really helped. And then I had to just look at my why, look at my plan, and say, right, you know what, I've got to go and do this regardless. And it was sometimes a case of, just close your eyes and jump. It doesn't have to be perfect. Do it, and you'll learn from it. And it's literally that's been my mantra. Just do it and then see what happens. And just go for it, because you actually only live once. So why hide behind that wall? You need to break that wall down and keep going. So
yeah, and there's I've forgotten her name now, but there's a nurse in Australia who worked in hospices, and she would speak to people in the last sort of weeks of their life about what were their biggest life lessons and biggest epiphanies, and she wrote the book with the cheerful title top 10 regrets of the dying. But it's a big wake-up call, because the number one regret is not having lived life the way you wanted to, having let yourself be guided by what other people were expecting of you, or fearful of what other people might think about you. And they realized when it's way too late that was just the most silly thing they could have done. So that advice, just go for it. You will, and the nice thing is 9 times out of 10 you will positively surprise yourself about what you're actually capable of doing. And when you start sharing more of yourself and your ideas, how that helps other people, and the feedback you get from others, like so many positive comments from others saying, oh, when you said this, it made me realize that, and then I did the other. It's like, wow, well, that was worth taking that deep breath and going for it. And then it becomes addictive. Then you kind of get to a point where it's almost a responsibility to continue helping them in this way. Definitely. So yeah, it's great that you did go for it.
Thank you.
And something else that you mentioned there was, and I thought that's just such a great thing that you did there that I want to highlight, is that you identified, what help do I need? And I think very often we don't think that way. We think, oh, I'm not good enough, rather than thinking, okay, well, I'm not good enough yet, but what would it take me to get from A to B? What do I need to learn? What kind of support do I need? Who do I need to ask for help? What kind of is there any big lessons that you've had, or any moments where you thought, gosh, I wish I'd asked for help sooner? Anything like that?
Well, I when I first jumped into the business, I didn't realize that there was a whole network of other entrepreneurs out there, because you feel like you're on your own. None of my friends and family are business owners or entrepreneurs. And so for me, I felt like I was on my own. And I wish that I'd known sooner how big a network the entrepreneurial network is, because I would have joined it sooner, and I would have, asked for that help sooner. But when you first start, or when I first started, I didn't know that there was that help available. And I wish that I'd known that at the beginning, because it would have meant that some of the mistakes that I did make, I wouldn't have made. I would have had that support to have known.
Or even when you made the mistakes, you had someone to turn to talk to about it. Because as you say, most of us starting a business, we have a nice network of supportive people, but they're not necessarily business owners. And so they don't quite have that same level of understanding of what it takes to build a business and what you're going through. So I love that you brought that up, because I think having that, I call it a success circle, having that network of people around you who you can turn to for advice, who are there to inspire you with what they've achieved, and help you realize broaden your realm of possibility, and help you see that there's a lot more that you can be doing, and pick up ideas from what others are doing in different industries. And it's just so great to have that network.
Priceless, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Aarti, you have shared so much value on the show. Thank you so much for joining us today. Before we wrap up, is there any last piece of advice that's really helped you in your business that perhaps we haven't talked about yet?
Yes. So I would say to you is, it's all very well you want to set up a business or that you've got a business, but the biggest thing that you need is a plan and a strategy. So it's not good enough, like I did at the beginning, to just say, I've got my website, I've got my social media, I've got a business now. You have to have a strategic plan on what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. Now, when I first started, I didn't know what that was. And I just thought, hang on a minute, why do I need a plan? But you do, you really do. And once you start mapping out the strategic moves that you're going to make to get to your goals, it helps you to break them down and turn them into these little tiny steps that you can take to achieve them. And I think that that's the biggest thing I want all the listeners to start thinking about. Get that plan in place, put a strategy in place to help you achieve it. And if you don't know how to do that, then find the help, that will make sure that you are able to put that plan in place.
Brilliant. And it's so true, so true. If I speak to so many people and they like, yeah, I want to be earning like 100 200k next year. Like, great, what's your plan to do that? Oh, I hadn't thought about that. And without a plan, it guides the steps that you're going to take, which helps you stay focused, helps you make consistent progress, but it also helps you see what is and isn't working, and then you can make the adjustments that you need. So if you don't have a plan and you're just doing stuff, then you don't know what's working and what isn't, and you can't fine tune that and make that a process, and that can distract you in so many different ways and keep you stuck. So I really love that you brought that up. Thank you.
No, that's okay.
So for anyone who's out and about at the moment listening to the show, I'll put all your links down in the show notes underneath this podcast. But if they don't have access to that right now, how can people find you?
So I am on the Interior Designers Club. So on Facebook and on Instagram, the tag is at the Interior Designers Club. So this is a community of ambitious female interior designers who want to start their own businesses or grow their own businesses. And we work on all the things that we've spoken about today, plans and strategies and being visible and confidence. And they're the best places to find me, and I'm always in there daily. So
wonderful. Thank you so much again, Aarti.
Thank you for having me.